but it's also fact.
Nice.
I built a little automator for both Quora and Quora.
Do you use a Windows automator thing or?
Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for SEO Fight Club. We are watching the YouTube chat, so if you have questions there, feel free to ask. Let me pop out the Skype chat. All right, and so today's topic is no topic. I figured we'd just talk about various things in SEO and what we're doing, and if there's any questions that people have or any topics they want to discuss, just let us know in chat. We'd be happy to talk about anything. But until then, figure we could talk about what we're seeing with the latest update, and I'm not seeing a lot. Like, I'm still inclined to agree with Clint and Lee that the helpful content update isn't much of anything that I can measure. There are anecdotal accounts of rankings going up and down, but it feels like it's the same amount that you would see during no update. So trying to see something that's out of whack, I still haven't seen it yet. Do you still have that opinion, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, every day, in pretty much all the SEO groups, you have somebody saying, hey, did anybody see some major movement last night because a couple of my sites tanked? You always see that sort of thing, and most people are like, no, I'm fine. And this kind of anything that you're seeing right now kind of feels in that vein, like the historical. There's always going to be sites that are going to be losing on a particular day that have nothing to do with major initiatives by Google. But I haven't seen anything on that regard that would make me think that anything's going on right now on Google's end.
What do you think, Clint?
I usually watch Lily Ray. She's got the time to actually go through a bunch of sites and all that stuff and look for this kind of stuff. And she's pretty much saying what myself and Lee are saying. It's kind of a big nothing burger right now. There's sites that she finds that have went up or down during the period of the update release, but it's not even significant enough to say that it's, yeah, that's the update, right? So.
Well, Google did say in their announcement that it would be a slow thing to get affected by. Like, it would take weeks and months for you to get hit by this update. And if that's true, then, it's going to be an interesting one because it can't curb behavior. So if you did something that warrants a punishment, but you get punished 6 months later, are you going to connect the punishment with the behavior? And will you know what you did and how to remedy it? Will it change your future behavior? So this notion of a really slow punishment, I don't see it changing behaviors, but maybe we'll detect a new best practice down the road and say you tend to rank better if you do, X instead of Y. But it's gonna be hard to know how to respond to something you don't know you have.
So you don't think 6 months from now, when your site tanks and Google goes, you know what you did, you're going to be able to utilize that?
Well, I mean, which bad behavior are we talking about, Maybe that's what Google's hoping, is that I'll clean up all of them.
Well, that could very well be.
So, yeah, it's interesting. You wouldn't train a dog this way. You wouldn't, if the dog pees on the rug, you don't punish them for it a week later. I mean, the dog will never learn. It's just the thing. So the question becomes, what purpose does this update serve? And So I imagine it's probably to target the worst of the worst content that was flooding the primary index, which is a very limited, valuable resource. And probably the things that's going to hit, Google is happy to lose and doesn't care about recovering.
Mhm.
And I would imagine that it is big sites. They're saying it's a site level score. So if you have a 5-page plumber website, I would imagine you're just too small to be, hit by this type of analysis and scoring. So, again, this is all just, thinking out loud, nothing proven, but if what Google is saying is true, then the question becomes, what are they targeting and why are they targeting and what do they hope to achieve? And it feels to me like they're trying to purge something out of the index permanently. And
Yeah,
what,
I was going to say the announcement did get me thinking about this, because this is, usually Google, ranks pages. But now they're publicly admitting that they've got some site-wide, at least their eyes on site-wide metrics, whether they actually implement it or not. So it started me thinking about, okay, how would one determine a good site from a bad site?
Well, you know how Google plays word games. What they always denied in the past was not having a domain authority metric.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they don't have site-wide metrics, just means they specifically don't have a domain authority.
Right.
Now they do.
Oh, now they do. Yeah, if they can tank you, that's an amount of authority.
Yep.
But the thing is,
if you
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you look at, you can say I don't have domain authority, but we use PageRank, which, it amounts to the same thing, when that was, in play. It's like, we don't really have a domain authority metric, but, PageRank we do use in the calculations for ranking pages. In effect, that's a domain level thing, because you pointed out a million times, most of your backlinks go to the homepage and then get distributed, throughout the site.
Yeah.
So it does amount to a domain level thing. But go ahead.
I was going to say, it felt like domain authority when you have a 50,000 page PageRank 8 homepage type of website. I mean, you can crank out PageRank 5s from your footer links, and that feels like authority.
Yeah. But it got me thinking in terms of, one of the things that immediately came to mind was the struggles people have with mass sites. You put up a bunch of pages, you get some of them or a bunch of them indexed, and then slowly, or maybe not so slowly, they tend to de-index down to nothingness. I started thinking, all right, well, if I'm Google and I want to look at bad sites, one thing that I can say is that if I go put up a website that has, let's say, 25 or 30,000 pages, hypothetically, in a day, over a month's period of time, even if a lot of those pages get indexed, the site level traffic is going to probably be less than the number of pages. It's going to be a low level of traffic for that many. So you could just use something like that as a metric and say, if your users per page is bad, your content is probably not good. And then say, if you're going to apply new content, coming from your site, we're going to be less inclined to take it given your site score, or whatever that happens to be. I started thinking in those terms. What are some other ways that one might determine that? So if we go back, I was going to say, if we go back to the .it domains that we saw that were taking up such a huge percentage of the primary index, but they're all ranked, greater than 100. Those pages were tended to rank really, really low. They got millions of pages and tens of visitors. Easy to target that. And it would, diminish the size of the primary index, or at least take out a lot of the trash in the primary index.
But you have to be careful with that because there is obscure information that's high quality and low traffic. You see it all the time in academic topics. You start talking about rare, obscure, microscopic fossils. And, if you just look at those metrics alone, you would punish all of that content and information. How do you repair some obscure antique car part? There's not going to be a ton of search volume for it. Might get a couple interested people a year who really need that information that exists nowhere else. So it's a fine line between, punishing obscure quality content versus punishing common spam.
For the record, my spam is uncommon, so I just want to go out
Yeah.
with
Yeah, that's what I tell people. My content is all quality. Your content is filthy web spam, and as long as we can all agree on that, the system works.
There you go.
I've got a question. What are the odds that this helpful content update is a cardboard cutout sitting in a patrol car? It changes some behaviors, but other than that,
I brought that up last week. They could have just said, hey, we're going to release this new score. You guys need to optimize for it by cleaning your website and deleting all the junk off your website. Half of my indexing problem just got a lot easier because all you clowns are running around deleting half your websites. That's perfectly logical that could be what they did.
Yeah, for all practical purposes, that's what they did with the HTTPS update. There was a boost for 2 weeks and then it was back to life as normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is a precedent for that.
Or if we want to tie it up in a bow, maybe unhelpful content or pages with bad core web vitals scores.
Yeah, that's it.
Just bring it back, tie the whole thing in a nice little bow.
To your point, Ted, earlier, you mentioned that they said, it could take months for you to see it. I would think that would be because it's reportedly a site-wide score through the analysis or a scoring of all of your pages, and then you get a site-wide combined score. That if it takes months, then your crawl rate is probably pretty low.
Or your site is really big.
Yeah. So you're not, most local businesses, those guys don't even update their websites, don't have a blogging thing. So their crawl rate is naturally going to be low because Google's used to going there and seeing the same thing over and over again. Eventually that's, a local site might not even see that for months, for example.
Yeah. And that's why I wonder if it's not targeting, massive page websites.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of aligned with you. I would look at a massive site. Is it getting any traffic? No. Low quality, check one. Are these pages interlinked to each other? No. Low quality, check two. Is the content not addressing enough of the topical relevance, i.e., keyword density, variation density, entity density, LSI? No. All low quality checks. Kick this page out of the index and do that to the mass sites. And that's probably how I would handle it.
Yep.
The weird
All
thing
the
about
while leaving the obscure page about microscopic fossils alone.
Yeah.
It's too small to care about.
if you look at that though, a lot of those things apply to an individual page, which is not going to rank well. So are they just going to take a site-wide, hey, your pages don't rank well for much?
if you're not doing the basics like interlinking your pages, I look at it this way: if you don't give a shit enough about your web page to link to it from the rest of your website, then that page then why should I care about it? It'd be
Okay,
that's
Bing.
to
That's
me,
Bing
that would be
skills
like
right
the
there.
easiest thing to do. Like if your pages are orphaned, we're not going to index them. That's kind of how. I mean, if I had an indexing a volume problem, like Ted is surmising that Google has for quite some time now. If I had a volume problem, I would do that right there. If you write a page and you don't care enough about it to link to it from the rest of your website, then we're not going to index.
Yeah, let me take a quick look at the primary index size, see if it's changed at all.
So that's how I would handle that. If it was me, that's how I'd handle it. One of the first things I do for those mass sites. Because interlinking those mass sites at scale is a bitch. I mean, once you make one for 8 million, you pretty much don't want to do that again.
But if you're building a mass website of like Lee might for say 20 or 30,000 pages, and he interlinks all the pages with one another and writes, content with keyword density, entity density.
So then if you're asking
You're not going to get
if he
traffic
goes
right
through and
away.
does all the things that he should be doing, then yeah, he's probably not going to see a low score.
But not going to see much traffic the day he puts it up. How long?
Of course not. Who does?
Well, but do you then say, well, it's not getting any traffic?
I never mentioned traffic. You added another variable to it. I said orphan pages.
Yeah.
So yeah, the primary index size looks unchanged for the past couple weeks. It still looks like on average sub 200 results per keyword. And so that's really small. You know, if you remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was 1,000. And so that's a big reduction in primary index allocation.
Also make correlation scoring a lot easier back then.
Yep. So yeah, you know, it still appears like they're having the same issues with scale. So a lot more pages would cause them to be more restrictive per keyword.
So I have a question which has come up in a few places, and it's popped up to me a couple of times as well. Back in, was it January, there was an update that hammered a lot of affiliate sites, but it didn't hammer all of them. And so we've had a lot of people with conjecture about what went on or how certain sites were targeted. Do we have any better information? You know, I haven't seen any better information, but I don't know if anybody has any better information, because, you know, I'm seeing, even if you jump on Flippa as an example, you see a lot of affiliate sites for sale that had these nice trajectories, and then January just dropped and, you know, have been.
Yeah, you know, Google's been targeting it because they have updates that are, you know, named like the product review update and things of that nature. We know that Google has had the same talking points for years. Are you offering affiliate links and just copying product information and offering nothing unique of value in addition to that same information? So, you know, Google's been talking about that. Do I know, you know, how well are they targeting it? That I don't know. I do know that historically the affiliate industry was very guarded about hiding their affiliate URLs. So not putting them in plain sight, but using JavaScript to cloak them, or redirects to make Google follow them to figure out that they're affiliate links and things of that nature. And all of those tools, all those widgets for WordPress, for affiliate links and everything, they came out because Google was targeting an affiliate. I mean, you wouldn't invest all of those development cycles for a solution. You wouldn't seek out that solution and install it and use it unless there was some agreement that there was some kind of a problem happening and that this was a solution that mitigated some amount of that problem. So, I think that there has been targeting against affiliate. I know that John Mueller recently said they don't target affiliate links and there's no reason to hide them. But at the same point, I wouldn't make it cheap and easy for Google to apply its bias. So even if they aren't today, I would still probably cloak them just to make it expensive and difficult for them to apply a bias in the future. And the problem has always been unique information. There are databases out there of product information that thousands of websites pull the same manufacturer details, and it's just duplicate content. And we know how duplicate content works. Whichever URL of the duplicate content has the highest page rank, that's the one that shows up. And it's actually used in a form of negative SEO for being able to de-index pages. You find pages that don't have the canonical URL set, you make an alternate form of their URL that you backlink to. Then you pull all the backlinks once the alternate form is outranking the original, and boom, you've de-indexed a page. It's temporary, but that's the exploit. So we know how duplicate content works in SEO. And so, having all that duplicate manufacturer product information puts you in a backlink war. And that's not a good way to do SEO. It's much easier to compete with unique content. If you get aggressive on your keyword density and factor diversity in your entities, you're going to get a lot further with a lot less than just a pure backlink war. What do you think, Clint?
I am of the opinion that Google's still working towards taking over in the affiliate marketing space. They had that product review snippet plan that they released, what was it, a year ago? Maybe 2 years. COVID probably slowed them down a little bit, but you see all these product review updates, cleaning the content out, looking for the easy stuff, like you said, getting lazy and just using the same product description and blah, blah, blah over and over again. That kind of stuff. And I expect them to keep ratcheting up for those affiliate guys. And then they're going to, once they got the winners, where they feel the content's good enough to promote in those rich snippets, they'll steal your content and use their own links to promote those products, essentially cutting you out of the mix.
Yeah, if I was an affiliate, kind of the things I would want to experiment with, and I'm not in affiliate SEO, so it's a little bit out of my depth. So test what I'm about to say before you take it on as your strategy. But I would be looking at AI tools to rewrite the manufacturer data. If you're using manufacturer data, spin it, rewrite it, then post it. I would figure out how to make the cookie cutter stuff that you've been using more unique and different. And it's probably not going to be hard to fool the algorithms on that. So you probably don't even have to try hard. It's just some amount of effort is probably all you need. Versus no effort, which is, the mainstream tactic.
Yep. Scrape, paste, post, done,
Yeah, I would use AI to rewrite, and then I would optimize with the surfer or whatever. Before posting that stuff. And I would probably test Diggity's theory of changing the perspective of your content. So instead of I'm writing this review based on something I've never laid my hands on, change the perspective and pretend that you own it. So I was, look at the reviews and stuff, and I was vacuuming my carpet and this one ripped up, sucked so hard it pulled my kid's blanket into the thing or something, stuff like that. change that perspective of the article and see if that has any effect as well.
I don't know. That'd make me buy that vacuum. I'm just gonna say.
All right, looks like we have a few questions here. Let's see, is it possible to over-optimize your internal links? Can you have too much exact match anchor text on internal links that would cause a problem? Historically, no. I used to only deal with 100% exact match footer links on large scale retail sites, and it worked amazing. And I never had a problem with it for like over 17 years. Could there be something new today targeting that? Possibly. So I'm not in retail today, so it could be different. What do you think, Clint? Have you seen anything that's worth caution?
I've always said that your website at some point for a keyword, any particular keyword, is just going to stop giving you power, and you need to know what your website is. So digital ear, I can get away with 5 exact match anchors, and then the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, it doesn't matter. It won't move my pages at all after that point. So from there, you switch to entities or variations and build upon that. But once you know that number, now you can plan out your silos a lot better too.
And
So,
yeah,
so in short, it won't hurt you, but there's a point where it just stops helping you.
so diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And I saw that too. Like if I tried to exact match link to one product, it worked really well. That product would shoot up. But if I tried to exact match link to 500 products, they'd all barely move at all.
Yeah.
And so there does seem to be an economy of what you can get away with. Let's see, if Google is having a scaling problem with too much crap in their primary index, what better way to reduce it massively than to tell us all exactly as they did with the helpful content update? They do social hacking. That's part of their playbook. We've seen it before. So yeah, it could be.
And remember the way that they announced that? There was not one Google message that said, "Hey, you should go and delete your pages." They depended on the white hat talking heads in all those sites. They all came up with the message, and then everyone just bid on it and went with what they were saying. So, I mean, I don't want to. I would give Google credit if they used that and said, "Hey, you should go delete all your stuff," right? I give them way more credit because they didn't even have to do that. They just let the community do it for them. So they implied that if you had bad content, you're going to grade your site on it. And so everyone took that as go delete all your bad content.
Yep. How do you go about cloaking affiliate links? That's the art of the affiliate trade. So there are plugins that do it. There are like JavaScript, jQuery plugins that help you do that. There are forums that you can go to, various white hat and black hat SEO forums that cover both cloaking and affiliate SEO. And those groups would have probably a number of people actively doing that could share their techniques. So I would recommend finding a group of affiliate peers and trading notes on what's working, because I think you'll probably get your best answers and best results that way. And the two common ways I've seen the affiliate cloaking is typically through redirects or JavaScript. So The links won't be in the source until some user action like scrolling the page downward or something like that happens, or a mouse over, then the link is dynamically created. So it'll look like a link, but it's just an image in Google's eyes until some behavior makes it a link. The other way is redirects and URL shorteners. Both of which make it harder and more expensive for Google to detect and apply bias, because they have to fully render the page. They have to emulate human activity to trigger. They have to crawl and follow redirects. And so those are the typical ways it happens. Any other ideas, Clint?
I use Pretty Links Pro. I don't make it too complicated. Just use Pretty Links and be done with it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's all that other stuff that you talked about. Some of that will get you kicked off of your affiliate programs. So Amazon in particular, they hate when you click their link. So Pretty Links Pro is it's innocuous enough to do what you're looking for it to do on your website while preserving your status in the affiliate program. So.
Yeah, and that's a great point there, is you have to look at the rules of your affiliate program as to what's allowable conduct. Because that definitely matters. Let's see, has anyone here had any firsthand experience with penalties for misusing structured data? So I'm assuming that's some kind of a manual action.
There has not been a penalty, manual or otherwise, for schema in quite some time. After they went around and did the manual stuff for the review stars, and then changed the entire system in the back end to how the review stars are handled. They don't even care about schema.
Yeah, that's kind of my recollection too, is it was mainly around aggregate reviews and stars showing up. There are some things that you can get in trouble with regarding your fave icon, because that's often displayed in the mobile side of search. And stealing a fave icon or using an inappropriate fave icon, explicit fave icons, making the fave icon look like an ad snipe. There's a number of things like that will get you penalized. So I guess if you're doing something that would draw attention as an exploit, that's probably the thing that would get a manual reaction out of Google. But short of that, I would imagine it's quite hard to do accidentally. Is there a way to know if we have absolutely got the most out of our on-page gains? Well, you get fooled, and I'll tell you the pattern I see all the time is I will tune my page, it'll go up a bit, I'll tune my page, it'll go up a bit, I'll tune my page, it'll go up a bit, I'll tune my page, it stops working. And usually it's between, for mid-competition keyword, between result number 20 and result number 40. I'll get to a point somewhere in there where on page feels like it stops working. That usually means I'm neglecting other categories of factors, primarily off page. At that point, I'll address referring domains, and then usually on page starts working again after that. So if what you're doing stops working, it's probably because you're pulling the same lever over and over again, and you haven't imagined other levers that you can pull. And so you need to first imagine what other levers you've been neglecting, and then you need to go pull those other ones. What do you think, Lee?
Well, I do a lot of on-page analysis and testing. I can't tell you, where we've hit an optimal level or gone too far, or gone not far enough. But I would say that your the thing that you shared is probably the best way of indicating. If it looks like it stops working, typically, you're not pulling some other lever. And so if it stops working and you move up from 25 and then you do a lot of work and you move up to 24 or 23, go build some links, go, do something else to the page. And you might find that you jump from, 23 to 7. That's been my experience with it.
What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, I mean, I like pushing the envelope. I like going as far as I could possibly do and just see what happens, because there's so much information out there telling you, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. And, the tester in me says, hold my beer. So, I mean, make some sites and do that. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how far you can actually go and still get results. To lose point, I mean, at some point, you just got to stop. I mean, you could chase rabbits all day long. Quora is a good example of that. 2,000 factors, the new update, and 4,000 factors. I mean, there's only so much time in the day, and you're not going to look at all 4,000 of those things and scratch your head and go, I wonder if I can squeeze a little bit more out of this. At some point, you just got to walk away and go buy some backlinks. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah, it's not about finding every possible thing you can tune. It's about finding, what are the 2 or 3 dozen things that are likely to help me the most. And yeah, a tool like Quora isn't intended for you to solve every factor in existence. It's there to help you imagine which factors you've been neglecting. And so, the key thing is, if you're doing one thing over and over and over again and it appears to stop working, do some other things in areas you've neglected, and odds are that one thing you like a lot will probably start working again.
Yeah, same thing applies with off page, because I know a lot of people that'll build links, they'll build more and they'll build more, and then it stops. It looks like there's a great point of diminishing returns. And at that point, I would sit there and say, all right, stop with the links, go back and look at on page, or look at, some other things as well.
All right. So that looks like it's the end of our questions here. So Clint, SEO this week, has it returned?
You're muted, dude.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the format I want to do. I'm not entirely sure I want to commit to a live show, especially with everything just pops up in my schedule these days. So it is coming back, but it's probably going to be recorded, which in and of itself could be a good thing too, because instead of watching a 30-minute hour show, you got 15-20-minute bites. So I think that'd be cool too. So still tossing that around in my brain.
Well, let me know if I can help. I'm excited that you're bringing it back. So that's the good news.
Do we have any sort of ETA on the first platter of hors d'oeuvres?
It'll probably be after. Oh, it might be next week, because I'll be in Florida, and 2 of those days of the week that I'll be there are just me relaxing. So I might just get bored and do it then. But I'll be on the Gulf of Mexico, so I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out. There's a hurricane, I'll do a live stream of that while I'm there.
That'd be cool.
Get a fan and a raincoat and pretend I'm blowing away.
And Lee, how's the training group going this time around?
It's going well. They're happy. They're getting results. We're getting ready to move on to the back half of the training, which accelerates things a bit. So, it's a good group. It's an interesting group, and they've got some interesting niches and sites that they work on too. So that's afforded some new data.
And I know you've mentioned in the past that you may or may not, continue doing this forever. Is it looking like you're going to offer the training again?
Yeah, right now I'm trying to figure out the training's about 2 months, and I like to take a month off. So the most it could occur is 4 times a year. The problem is the fourth quarter because you've got the holidays. And so either you're trying to promote during the holidays when people are buying Christmas presents, which I have no problems with, or you're trying to have training during the holidays when people are, preoccupied. So whether or not I'll have one in the fourth quarter this year or have none in the fourth quarter and then maybe have one late first quarter next year, that's still something I'm chewing on. But
And,
a lot of it depends on what Clint does with SEO this week. I'm following that model.
and where can people learn about it if they want to learn about it?
TestedSEOtraining.com.
Excellent. Looks like we have a couple last minute questions here. On an e-commerce site with an infinite scroll in the product category, can I add blog posts at the bottom of the last page with relevant content, or should they be the top of the page? Well, I'm assuming that content is duplicated from your blog, so I think it would be counterproductive and would probably cause cannibalization issues between the blog and the category pages. My advice is if you can do that type of custom development in your store, instead, add a short description to every product that can hold one or two very short sentences. Make the short description very keyword rich for every product and display the short description with every product token on the category. Because then if you have 20 products per page, then you're looking at 20 to 40 short keyword rich sentences per product per category page. And then if you need to, you can bulk up the pages by going from 20 products per page to 100 products per page. Then you got a ton of sentences that are keyword and entity rich on your otherwise thin categories.
Right.
What was that, Clint? Oh, sorry. Thought you were saying something.
I wanted to go. How do you have infinite scroll, but then you have a last page by definition? Infinite.
I was
scroll
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I would, I would go the other route. I would try to get some sort of information into the product tokens on the category pages. And I've had a lot of success with clients in the past doing the short description in the category tokens. Like I've seen that just pop, just about every time, taking them from thin pages that's hard to rank to boom, we did it. So, if you can do that type of custom development, that's the way I'd take it. Let's see, does Googlebot crawl all pages in an infinite scroll? Maybe, maybe not. Depends how it's implemented, obviously. Usually what people will do is they'll create a sitemap that goes to the individual scroll points. That way there's some sort of URL API that gets Google a complete crawl. The other problem with infinite scroll is that it's JavaScript. So you have to render the page to do the infinite scroll. And Google actually isn't going to scroll at all. What Google is going to do is they're going to create a browser window that's got a fixed width and is really, really tall. And I forget the dimensions, but it's in the tens of thousands of pixels tall. And whatever content appears in that really tall viewport, that's what will appear. So your lazy load infinite scroll should ideally fill up an abnormally tall viewport. And so that's the way to test it. If you can create the abnormally tall viewport and you get everything to show and you find out, what Google's going to render with, then then you can be sure it's going to work. But it depends how much infinite scroll you have. And the other problem with JavaScript is that about 25% of the time, JavaScript indexing is offline or really, really slow or encumbered in some way. And so that usually means that websites that depend on JavaScript rendering will have broken SEO for about a quarter of the year. And as of late, it's always been Q4. So that's the one thing to worry about. If you're gonna index JavaScript content, do it before October and then don't touch it. Let it ride through the holidays, because if you need Google to re-crawl and re-render everything in Q4, past 3 years, that's been a really tragic mistake. Any other thoughts on that?
I'd argue if you're looking at the holiday stuff, you're probably too late anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, you need to be thinking about that way in advance. So I like to think Q1, what we need, finished by beginning, middle of Q3. Yeah. Let's see. I've sort of been doing that as H3s. Is that good? That's in response to the short description. And I think that's fine. And then kind of what you play around with is the number of products per page. The thing about H3s is they need to be on topic and keyword rich. So just make sure if you are using headings that it doesn't have, template, boilerplate text. It needs to be something descriptive and unique. All right, with that, we'll call it a show. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week. And hopefully we'll have a SEO this week to talk about, which would be awesome.